Hello my dear friends, you're in the middle of the Summary channel, and today we will discuss the situation in Ukraine on the 22nd of December of 2025. Today we have lots of very interesting updates, so let's start. So the Russians continue their offensive operation, the Russians continue their special military operation. Now it's become clear that the main Russian offensive operation currently is taking place in the Slavyansk direction. So we are talking about the territory between the river of Seversky Donetsk, the city of Seversk, and the MO3 road that goes from the settlement of Bakhmut in the direction of the city of Slavyansk. So this is the main direction of the Russian offensive. The Russians are advancing right now, but at the same time the Russians continue using its tactics of 1,000 cuts. They attack along the entire line of combat contact, along the entire front line, along the entire, let's say, border between Ukraine and the Russian Federation, and the Russians continue attacking deep inside of the territory of Ukraine as well. And as we discussed during the previous videos, the Russians have changed their tactics. For some reason, they began bombing and attacking significantly the Odessa region. For example, today we received this video from this territory. If you remember, just yesterday we discussed that the Russians attacked some oil refinery or let's say oil depot in this area, and as a result of yesterday's attack the entire facility, oil facility, was completely destroyed. This video was published today, and here we can see the consequences of 2-day long fire in this area. So the Russian, some vehicle, pro-Ukrainian vehicle, was moving through this road, and a driver probably of this vehicle and a passenger was filming the situation around this facility. Lots of trucks were destroyed completely. A fire at the beginning of this video you could see. So, and this is already consequences of yesterday's attack. So this is the situation. So let's rewind updates for a day before. So this is the video that we discussed yesterday when everything just started. This is the moment when probably dozens of drivers came to this area with the purpose to take fuel, or they brought fuel to this area. It's very difficult to understand, but the Russians began bombing and attacking this area. The smartest drivers realized that it's time to start running away from this area, and when the Russians began bombing and attacking this territory, probably 10 or 20 drivers from this area left this territory with their trucks, and they managed to save fuel inside of these trucks. So for example, right exactly at this moment we can see how some drivers began escaping this area because they realized that there are very high chances that their trucks with fuel could be destroyed immediately. But some of these drivers weren't so smart as those who managed to escape this territory, because once again during this video we can see that lots of vehicles were completely destroyed, and obviously these vehicles were destroyed probably not as a result of Geran strike. Maybe they were destroyed as a result of secondary detonation because there was a very powerful fire, and maybe some explosions, maybe some parts of explosive managed to get this area as well, and that led to secondary detonation through the entire road. Very difficult to understand, but obviously some catastrophe took place here between the 21st and the 22nd of December of 2025, which obviously will probably change the situation along the line of combat contact. It is fuel. It is probably fuel and the most important asset that Ukrainian soldiers currently need, and vehicles, and Ukrainian army currently needs to continue offensive operation. Furthermore, the Russians attacked not just the Odessa region. Today we received lots of updates from the Zhytomyr region. As for this area, we received just one picture. This is the picture I'm talking about, and here we can see a train that left railways, and the sources reported that the Russians attacked this territory with dozens of Geran drones, and the Russians are saying, the pro-Russian sources are saying, and pro-Ukrainian sources confirm that during the moment when the Russians were attacking these railways with drones, the Ukrainians were transporting arms, vehicles from the territory of the city Lvov, from the western part of Ukraine, towards the line of combat contact. But as you can see, the Russians attacked this territory, and this situation most likely led to complete catastrophe in this area as well. So some certain logistic of the armed forces of Ukraine and Ukraine itself during this period of time collapsed completely. So this is something new from the Russian side. The Russians began attacking something that they haven't been attacking since the beginning of the special military operation. Now let's discuss the situation on the ground, and first let's talk about the Zaporozhye direction. During the previous 24 hours, we received lots of updates from the western Zaporozhye direction. As you can see, according to different mappers, the Russians managed to improve their position significantly around the settlement of Stepnogorsk. Several pro-Russian sources stated that Russians, as a result of offensive operation, managed to improve their positions to the north of the settlement of Stepnogorsk, and Russians managed to improve their positions to the east of the settlement of Stepnogorsk as well. Furthermore, as you can see, during the previous 24 hours, we received lots of geolocations from the road between the settlement of Pavlovka and the settlement of Maly Sherbaki. Lots of FPV drone attacks were carried out by Russians exactly in this area. Lots of geolocations, and all these geolocations are telling us just about one thing. The Russians are clearing these fields, these tree lines, these fortifications before Russian troops enter this territory. So Russians, according to these geolocations, according to this number of updates, are moving in the eastern direction, and now it's clear that the Russians are tasked to attack the city of Orekhov from the west. So that is why first the Russians need to clear the territory with drones, and then infantry will enter the same territory, and then will continue advancing further in the eastern direction. So telling the truth, now we have no doubts that the battle for the city of Orekhov has already begun, where we are not talking about the battle inside of the city limits, but we understand that the Russians are moving in this direction. So we are going to get lots of updates exactly from this area. Furthermore, according to information we have, the Russians continue their assault on the city by the name of Gulyai Polye. During the previous 24 hours, lots of changes were recorded in this area. The Russians improved their positions in the northern part. The Russians improved their positions in the southern part. The Ukrainians are retreating towards the most western part of the settlement. But saying the truth, according to all these updates, we believe that in coming days, the Ukrainians will withdraw their positions from the territory of the city of Gulyai Polye completely. So the situation there is very difficult for the armed forces of Ukraine, and with all problems they have with manpower, with supply and support, it's hard to believe that Ukrainians are able to hold their positions for another 2 or 3 weeks, or at least for another month. Most likely before 2026 comes, the battle for the city Gulyai Polye will be finished. At the same time, the Russians continue their offensive operation on the Ukrainian side of the river of Gaichul. This information today was confirmed by pro-Russian sources, by neutral mappers, by pro-Ukrainian sources. So the situation here is very difficult, but the most important thing is that Russians continue developing their positions on the Ukrainian side of the river of Gaichul. As we discussed during many videos that were published before, this is probably the most important battle through the entire special military operation. Not the battle for Stepnogorsk, Orekhov, or Gulyai Polye, not the battles for the cities of Pokrovsk or Mirnograd, not the battle for the city of Siversk. This one is the most important battle. There are no towns, big cities like Pokrovsk, like Mirnograd. There are no strongholds or biggest positions ever like the city of Ugledar or the city of Siversk. It's just the territory between a Ukrainian Zaporozhye defense layer by the name of Zaporozhye Wall, different rivers and so on, but this foothold opens the Russians the way towards the city of Zaporozhye, and this is the most important thing, because if Russians can take under complete control everything to the east, let's say to the right of this red line, this is going to be an open gate before moving further in the direction of the city of Zaporozhye itself, and Russians will be able to approach the city within the next 6 or 9 months. Now let's move further and let's talk about the city of Pokrovsk and the city of Mirnograd. During the previous 24 hours, we received lots of important updates. The Russian sources published this video. The Russian sources published many videos from the northwestern part of the settlement, and here we can see lots of FPV drone attacks on Ukrainian vehicles, on Ukrainian tanks that were attacking the city of Pokrovsk. Telling the truth, when these videos were published for the first time, that came to my mind was that those videos were archived and we shouldn't update the map. And here we can see another video, abandoned tank of the armored forces of Ukraine that was destroyed by Russian FPV drone crew by the name of Rubicon. So this vehicle was destroyed and we were waiting, but later we received another report, and according to information we have, Ukrainians during the previous 24 hours launched their major counter-offensive operation in the direction of the city of Pokrovsk with just one purpose: to answer the city, to enter the industrial zone in the northwestern part and to dig in deeper, with the purpose most likely to show flags through the city of Pokrovsk and to tell that the city of Pokrovsk, at least its northern and the northwestern parts, are under complete control of the armored forces of Ukraine. But according to this video, we see that most likely this Ukraine attack was repelled. Ukrainians suffered huge losses according to all these videos. Of course, we are waiting for additional details, additional updates, and if we continue receiving updates from this territory, then we will adjust the map. But as of now, we know just one thing for sure. Ukrainians counter-attack along the M30 road with the purpose to enter the northwestern part. Ukrainians used for those purposes lots of tanks, vehicles, infantry, fighting carriers, and infantry. Russians, according to information we have, were trying to repel this attack, and they sent lots of FPV drone crews for these purposes, and most likely this attack, at least this attack, was repelled. We're not saying that Ukrainians are planning to stop. Most likely there are still up to 9 days before 2026 comes, so most likely we're going to see dozens of attacks, dozens of attempts from the Ukrainian side. So Ukrainians managed to improve their positions in the area of the city of Kupiansk, and now they will try to do the same in the area of the city of Pokrovsk. More attacks are expected from Ukrainian side, and most likely the map will be adjusted. Now let's move further. Let's talk about the city of Konstantinovka. During the previous 24 hours, we received lots of changes, but most of them are coming from the area to the south of the city. So Russians began their major offensive operation to the south of the settlement of Konstantinovka, just with one purpose: to take under complete control of the territory between N32 road and 20 road, the Kliban-Bytskaya water reservoir, and the settlement of Ivanopolia. So Russians want to make the situation when the Kliban-Bytskaya water reservoir would be behind the Russian soldiers that are located along the line of combat contact. So this territory is the territory that the Russians are tasked to establish control over during the next days. So Russians are going to do this. Furthermore, just before we started making this video, we received lots of updates that Russians managed to enter the settlements of Dovga, Balka, and Stepanovka. So the Konstantinovka major offensive operation started either today or yesterday or the day before yesterday, but now it has become clear that the Russians will attack the city from the south with the purpose to improve their positions and to answer the citadel of the city of Konstantinovka, which is located in the southwestern part of the settlement. Now let's talk about the city of Slaviansk. This is the major Russian offensive operation. During the previous 24 hours, additional changes were recorded. So this is the map by the end of the 21st of December. This is the map by the end of the 22nd of December. The Russians managed to improve their position significantly, and this information was confirmed both by pro-Ukrainian, pro-Russian, and neutral mappers. The Russians continue advancing. They use everything they have with the purpose to break through Ukrainian defense. Ukrainians, as of now, they're retreating because they understand that both the cities of Siversk and Bakhmut and Solidar are located under complete control of the armored forces of the Russian Federation, which means that Russians have complete advantage in these fields with FPV drones. Ukrainians most likely will be able to get some advantageous situation, probably to the west and to the right of this red line. So if Russians cross this red line, then most likely Ukrainians will start having better situation with FPV drones than Russians. But everything to the east of this yellow line is the situation when Russians will have complete superiority in every single type of weapon the current modern warfare can show us. So the Russians continue advancing, lots of, as you can see, videos. But as of the end of the 22nd of December, it's still a very complicated and unknown situation that is currently taking place on the territory of the city of Liman. We know that there are very heavy clashes, but we haven't been receiving anything from this area for 2 or 3 weeks in a row. So which means that this is obviously a weird situation, and we're waiting a major update from this area coming in coming days. As for the city of Kupiansk, probably this is the first day since the beginning of the Ukrainian counteroffensive in this area when we haven't received anything from this territory. Most likely, and first of all, this situation is connected with deteriorating situation in the Sumy direction when the Russians began their another offensive operation, or another cut of 1,000-cut tactics to the southeast of the settlement of Sumy. So most likely this is the reason why the Ukrainians were forced to stop their Kupiansk offensive and to redeploy some forces back. But it's just speculations. We need to wait, we need to get additional updates. But as of now, as you can see, for the first time for the previous 10 or even 20 days, we haven't adjusted anything. And as for the Volchansk direction, during the previous 24 hours, the Minister of Defense of the Russian Federation and the group of forces north stated that the Russians, as a result of offensive operation, managed to establish complete control over the settlement of Vilcha. Based on this report, we have adjusted the map. This is the situation by the end of the 21st of December, and this is the situation by the end of the 22nd of December. The Russians improved their positions, the Russians answered the Kharkiv operational space, and now we should expect the Russian offensive operation towards the settlement of Belye Kolodezh. And that's it for today. Military Summary channel reminds that we condemn any violence in the world. Thank you for your watching. Subscribe to my channel, put your likes, join my Patreon, and have a good day. Bye bye.